Greetings, this is another edition, Blackstonian TV, and for those who may hear this via audio, Blackstonian Radio, we have a very important segment today that really speaks about an incident that occurred in Boston that was one of my first opportunities to really do some activism based on a response to a racial incident. And what happened was, as many of you know, I'm the former National Minister of Information of the New Black Panther Party, former Boston chapter chairman, and so on and so forth. Around the same time that I was appointed to be the Boston chapter chairman of the New Black Panther Party in 2002, this is one of the first incidents that happened and was kind of my first foray in the public sphere in my adulthood, being back in Boston only since 1997, of having to deal and respond to an incident. Prior to this, obviously, my activism has been, as a youth and a teenager and dealing with that, and then going down to Atlanta. But coming back in 1997, Black Panther, New Black Panther Party in 2002, and then this being one of the first cases that came on my radar. What happened was we heard reports that there was 3 young ladies who were black Cape Verdean young ladies, and when I use terms like black and Cape Verdean, I'm only using that for the benefit of the audience because of their own classifications, and when I see no difference. Black Cape Verdean, whether they were from the West Indies or Puerto Rico, it doesn't matter. 3 teenage young ladies. 2 of them were 17 years old and 1 was 14. They were coming home from the mall at the Galleria, and in that MBTA corridor under Park Street, the concourse, from what changed from the Green Line over there, from coming from that Galleria area, Leechmere and all that, to the underground concourse that links the train corridors. The 3 young ladies, as they told it to me, they were there minding their own business, came home, from the mall, and were stopped at a soda machine. They heard a noise and turned around and to see a group of quote unquote rowdy young white people. And they were just at the moment looking at the people, as many of us in the black community do, who don't know various different genres, if you will, looked at these people and said, oh, these are just a group of like some punk rock kids or something. But in fact, it was not. It was a mixed group of several people, and we'll be speaking with somebody who was actually there that evening. But the main culprit in this situation, who goes by the name of Lars, his alias, when the 2 groups interacted in this corridor, it basically turned into a physical assault, with one of the white Caucasian females from the group having some words with these young black Cape Verdean teenagers, which then went to physicality, and then at which time the person, Lars, stepped in and began to assault these young teenagers. And I'm going over the facts gingerly because we're going to get more in depth with it. But at the time, what I had understood was basically 3 black young teenage girls attacked and assaulted by a group of white teenagers or what have you, and the assault resulted in bodily injury. So of course, we responded. In that initial response, it comes to light that this young man, Lars, was a neo-Nazi skinhead and had some very, obviously by the title of neo-Nazi skinhead, had some very abhorrent ideas about black people in general, black women, and that some of the terms used, during the assault were things like nigger, bitch, slut, so on and so forth. This young gentleman, and I use the term loosely, obviously, his name was in fact not Lars. His name was Josiah Spaulding, Josiah A. Spaulding Jr. to be exact. And he was the son of Josiah Spaulding III, who was at the time and is currently the director of the Wang Center in Boston, the Wang Theater in Boston. And obviously that incensed me. Child of privilege, what I consider to be a Yankee blue blood, neo-Nazi skinhead, rich white person attacking some young black sisters. As I began to do the research into the family, went back and traced it as far back as the Mayflower. So that the Spaulding family is actually some of the original Yankee blue bloods who actually came here on the Mayflower, right? And the Spaulding family, which many people may know from Spaulding Rehabilitation Center and whatnot, that's this young man's grandfather. Their family is all linked up with the Shaddocks, the Shattuck Hospital. Those two families, the Spauldings and the Shaddocks, married and intermarried and merged. So this is quite the typical Yankee blue blood family that actually can be traced, as I said, back to the Mayflower. So this young man, Josiah Spaulding, and we're wrapping this up once again, just kind of recapping the facts of how I got involved back in 2002, now 10 years ago, dealing with this case. And then we're going to do the kick in the head, where folks are going to see what a small world it is, what a small Boston it is, and how these things kind of come full circle. So, Josiah A. Spaulding III, pardon me, and I said the information wrong earlier. He is Josiah A. Spaulding III. He is the son of Josiah A. Spaulding Jr., the Wang Center director. Josiah A. Spaulding III, his date of birth is September 11th. Wow, I didn't even realize that, so now how ironic is that? His birth date is September 11th, 1979. 5'11" height, weight 165 pounds, hair blonde, eyes blue. Last known address at the time when we put this flyer out, and obviously we put that up on the screen, was 364 Harvard Avenue, number 15, Cambridge, Mass. And at the time he was charged with 3 counts of assault and battery, Mass General Law 265-15B, 1 count of a civil rights violation, Mass General Law 12-1U, or 11J, and 265-37. Spaulding is a member of the World Church of the Creator under Matthew Hale, who people might also know. Matthew Hale is one of the skinhead neo-Nazi Aryan ilk races who threatened to kill and assassinate federal judges. Spaulding at this time frequently hung out at the Pit in Harvard Square. This incident occurred on November 22nd of 2002 at 9:30 p.m. at the Park Street downtown crossing concourse. Once again, the under part that connects the two parts of the MBTA. And I'm going to read this and then we're going to end. 3 girls were on their way home from the Galleria Mall in Cambridge, got off at the Leechmere trolley, and were walking through Park Street concourse. The girls saw a group of skinheads, and this is my own language at the time. Everyone was not a skinhead, as you'll hear in a moment. Approximately 5 to 7 males and females. They jumped the turnstiles and entered the station. The group surrounded the girls at a vending machine. One female skinhead pushed one of the victims, and when the victim responded, female skinhead produced an ASP, which is a collapsible metal baton like the police have, which was taken from her by Josiah A. Spaulding III, who used it to attack the girls. Spaulding began to beat the girls about the head, calling them black niggers, black whores, and the group told the victims that they were outnumbered. 1 girl was rendered unconscious briefly. Actually, that changed that. 2 girls were unconscious briefly. And all were taken to Mass General Hospital, treated and released. Okay, so with that, that's basically the preface to it, and a lot of information we'll delve into, get a little bit more in depth into. We'll correct some of that information, and we'll address the entire thing when we come back to you in just a minute. Once again, Blackstonian TV, Blackstonian Radio, and this is the sad and tragic case of Josiah A. Spaulding III, a.k.a. Lars, the son of Josiah A. Spaulding Jr., the director of the Wang Center. So we'll be back with you in a minute. Blackstonian TV, Blackstonian Radio.
Yeah. All right, we're rolling.
Okay, so we're back, Blackstonian TV, and obviously for those who are hearing this in audio, Blackstonian Radio. And joining me, as you can obviously see, I have a guest. This is a young gentleman, Mark Vincent, who I met only recently via music and hip hop, but as it turns out, a kick in the head. And once again, in that instance of showing how small Boston is and how small the world is, who I met, and many of you from the Blackstonian audience know that I work with a lot of various youth. And so, for instance, Jesse Winfrey, Catch Wreck, young rapper in a band. This is one of the young gentlemen who was in the band with Jesse. And at a night at my house when we are just talking about stuff, this subject came up, and it turns out that Mark Vincent, who is a member of the band,
Sweatshop,
Sweatshop, and a great musician in his own right in that aspect, but it just turns out that he was also participatory, or no, not participatory. Pardon me, that's a misnomer. But was actually there, present. Is what I want to say. Was present while this thing happened, and as we talked about it, and this story came out. So I just want to now. It's a very unusual situation, and I have the opportunity to meet somebody where, as we're meeting now, as people who know each other and are cool and music and everything else. But this was obviously a traumatizing situation for you.
Absolutely.
And then for me was kind of the birth of my quote-unquote public boxing activism. And it's interesting to find somebody who was, involved in that. So, to start off, please, tell the people just a bit about yourself, maybe like, how old you are, where you're from, where you grew up type of thing. And then we can get right into what happened on this day. The reason I asked your age and like where you grew up is just like, to kind of show people who are in my audience,
exactly.
Just a normal, regular guy.
My name is Mark Vincent. I'm 26 right now. The incident that he was talking about happened 10 years ago when I was 16. I grew up in Weymouth all my life. Just kind of started getting into the punk scene. Just like when I was 14, when I was like 15, just kept going to more and more shows. And by the time I was 16, I knew like a lot of the people and kind of like that went to every single punk show in Boston. It was kind of like, I thought of it as a time of family. I was kind of like young and naive at the time. And that's how basically I got to meet the group of people I was with that night. That's basically my background.
And pretty much too, because as you relate the story to me, once again, like I said, innocent time. You were just on your way to go to a party.
I was 16. I think I was probably in maybe 10th grade or something like that at the time. Just going to shows, people get us beer, just have a good time. That's what my life was like at the time.
And you didn't know this person prior to that or whatever, and he was just like, one of the little supposed to be cool guys or something. And
he was a friend of a friend. I had seen him one time at an apartment party, but like I said, I was 16. Drinks, to just never really talked to him, just heard his name was Lars, and then that night hung out with him again. He had bought the alcohol. It was just like, oh, thanks Lars, just never heard anything about him, never knew him. It was just, that was it.
So first of all, if nothing else, and because he was overage.
Oh yeah, I don't even know. I don't remember his age.
I think I have it here. I definitely have his date of birth. But in any event, my point being, he was born in '79, so he's 8 years younger than me, 32.
Yeah, I was 16, so
yeah, he was at least 21.
Yeah, much older.
So just in even procuring alcohol, he was kind of a scumbag. He was, hanging out with younger kids, getting alcohol. He never touched you, did he?
No.
Okay, good. And that's kind of too what I want people to see too, because like our relationship, we're just regular guys. We talk mega crap.
Yeah, you call me up.
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Just regular stuff.
Yeah, no, he just had always kind of been, just like kind of like a, I guess you'd say a wallflower. But I was seeing him one other time at a party. Didn't really say much. Just thought his name was Lars, and that people said he went to Harvard. And that he was like the head of his class. That's all I knew. And I was like, what the fuck is he doing hanging around with all these like punk kids, with mohawks and shit, just like drinking PBRs, you know what I mean? Like before a show, when he was going to Harvard and stuff. And then just kind of like the night when I met him, all that stuff happened. And it was nothing, you know what I mean? It's crazy, nothing.
Okay, and so before we get into that, I just want to delve a little bit more into like that whole like the mindset and the scene. So they, first of all, when this whole incident occurred, there was like a lot of y'all that were together. But also too, there was the other kid that we both know. Okay, you said his name, I didn't. But who was by me, because like I knew him from Harvard Square and stuff like that, my little things and whatnot. Who by me, just being a black dude from the hood, he was like a weirdo.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Kid, whatever, but he was not dangerous or harmful.
No, he was actually one of the nicest kids I've ever met.
Exactly, he was right, real nice kid. But he had like a super duper like green spiked mohawk up to here, and so the look would be abrasive. This is
like
not,
an alien, like some people look at an alien. Yes,
right, this is not something that Sally Sue is going to bring home to mom for Thanksgiving dinner.
No, he's not what you would call normal looking,
but then mainstream. Right.
That's what he liked, right. To each his own.
But he was not a dumb person.
No, he wasn't. He was going to college at the time.
Right, he wasn't a dumb person. He wasn't an evil person.
Nope.
He wasn't just kind of a sarcastic type of asshole type of person.
No, he just met the kid through the punk scene like everybody else.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And when I'm saying my experience with him, I had met him outside of that, and actually I only knew that he was the Luke in this story when you told me the story and started describing him, and I was like, what, the green mohawk kid from Harvard Square? Because I had already had my own interactions with this dude, and my thing being black community guy is the exact same experience that in terms of white people, while he was cut from a different cloth, let's say, and a strange person, I never felt like he was a bad person. Right.
No.
So in any event, so there was you, there was Luke. Who were the other people there involved?
Just some other friends, acquaintances. One of my friends from Weymouth that we had gone to shows with. A couple other kids from Boston. Just basically not everybody who hung out in their hometown. Not like anybody knew each other their whole lives, but we just knew each other through the punk scene. That was it. Like you just go to shows, get drunk, have a good time. Doing the moshing, dancing, and everything. It doesn't matter. Like. It's just kind of like everybody you thought you knew, but like I said, it taught me a lesson that you really don't know who you hang out with until you actually, know them. So we can get into that.
Right, exactly. So now the night of, and we're coming up on a break. But the night of, let's set the scene for this night, and then let's go on into the break. But the scene for this night, this is. You guys all got together. You're on the MBTA. You're on your way. Paint the picture.
We were actually in the Commons, and we were all just kind of just drinking, just hanging out in the Commons for a little bit. And that's when we decided to take the T, and that's when we went underground, and we went through the tunnel to get to where we were going, and that's when 3 Cape Verdean girls crossed us. And that's when the incident began.
Okay. So that's actually a good place to break. So right there, when he talks about the underground tunnel, of course, he means the Park Street concourse that connects like the Green Line to the Orange Line where this incident occurred. So we'll be back, for you and just that quick. Blackstonian TV, Blackstonian Radio for those who are hearing it in audio, and I'm here right now with Mark Vincent. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we're back, Blackstonian TV, and once again, for those who are listening in audio, obviously Blackstonian Radio, which actually might be better in this case, dealing with the 2 people you have before you. It might actually be better for those to see it in audio. Then they'll get to look at our 2 ugly mugs. All right. So now we're getting back in it, and I make light, and I'm having a good time, and I'm making light because the stuff is so heavy that I really do feel the need to kind of keep it light so that people know that this is not an adversarial thing. This is because at the time, this was something that had blood boiling. But now, 10 years later, it's something that we can look back and study. And while the trauma and the tragedy and my anger is directed to this individual, Josiah A. Spaulding, but sitting here right now with Mark, this is not an adversarial thing. And as you were just basically laying out the beginning of the story, if we could just get a little deeper into that, of what happened that night with Mr. Josiah A. Spaulding III.
Yeah, before I actually get into that, it's how you talk about the humor thing. I had to go in front of a grand jury to do this, and before,
which was probably not so funny.
No, but before, you know how you go to a funeral, and like at a funeral sometimes if you're with your friends, like they try to like, you know, making jokes and kind of like cheer you up. It was like I testified with a couple of kids I knew, like right before we were making jokes, like we didn't even realize how heavy, you know, and we realized that we were just trying to like get it out of our head at the time. And then finally, when the bailiff called me to go testify, it was
and at
like,
this time too, you're like,
yeah.
How long did you testify after it originally happened?
I would say I testified. I would have to say 6 months.
Right. Okay. So you're still 16.
Yeah, exactly.
You're still 16.
I think I might have actually been 16, maybe 17 at the time. It's not, like I said, not really a period that I like to go back and remember.
But you're in high school, you're a goofy kid, 16, whatever, you're not an adult, This is something that would be heavy for an adult, a mature adult person to have to go through and have to go and talk about this traumatic experience and all this, and here you are, a 16-year-old kid, you know, who never had to deal with anything like this, and it has to be pretty fucking surreal.
It was absolutely the worst thing that I've ever witnessed in my life. I'm 26 now, 10 years later. It's absolutely the worst thing I've ever witnessed in my life. And as much as I'll never be able to forget it, it's something that I do obviously like to try to forget. Like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it taught me to just look around my surroundings, know the people that I'm with, and all of that. This is what it taught me. Just know the people that you spend time with, or else something completely messed up like that might happen again. And when it comes down to it, it goes so fast, there's nothing you can... You like to think that there's something you can do, but you're just hopeless when it happens. So it's just try to surround yourself with the best people you can and just separate yourself from all those scumbags and degenerates like Josiah Spaulding.
Right. And let me ask you this too, okay? Because in your own life, of course, when dealing with people of other cultures and whatnot, you know, you have no problems with any of these people.
Absolutely not.
You know, you deal with my crazy ass, and, you know, Jesse Winfrey, aka Catch Wreck, and
I've always gone along with everybody, not having like I said, just met everybody through just a punk show, and just everybody I usually encounter I'm friendly with, so it's like... Because
what I'm saying is, like, you had no idea that this dude...
I don't like to cast judgments. Yeah, exactly.
Like, his ideas that went that far to the hilt are as crazy and abhorrent and just wild out as they are to me, as they are to you. And that's not, you know, even for white people, you know what I mean, quote unquote, who may not agree on this issue or that issue. No one condones that type of nuttiness.
Exactly. It was just nutty. It was I've seen what the lowest a human being can get.
Right.
That's what I've seen. It's absolutely. Basically, to give the quick rundown what happened, I forget that if we had been to a show that night, but we got together at my friend's apartment, all started drinking. We all went to the Commons, we hung out there, like drinking a little bit, just having fun. Like I said, went to the tunnel. Our group, which was probably like, I'd say 6, 7, or 8 people, were walking by, and the 3 Cape Verdean girls walked by us. The kid, Lars' girlfriend at the time, asked one of the Cape Verdean girls what the time was, and the Cape Verdean girl said she didn't have the time. And that's when his girlfriend called her a nigger, and that's when they started to fight. So they started to fight. At the time, her boyfriend Lars had a metal baton in his jacket. So when the 2 girls, the victim and Lars' girlfriend, started fighting, Lars' girlfriend was managed to grab the baton out of her boyfriend's jacket and almost struck the victim with it, until Lars grabbed it out of her hand, and which I witnessed, I thought that he was just remaining calm and just like kind of keep the situation in check. But then when it came down to it, and the victim started actually beating up his girlfriend more. That's when he came in and he struck her over the head, and that's when his girlfriend fled and everybody else started to run, and then he chased her other friend down the hallway. I never heard him say anything. It was nothing. It was just like boom, chasing. He hit her in the stomach, and then he came back and walked by the other girl again and hit her again, and then ran on his way. At the same time, I'm just like standing there, I don't know which way to go. Obviously, 16, and I was drunk, not used to being drunk, obviously. Just had no idea what to do. It was just like the most surreal moment. And I was able to walk by the girl, and it was the most horrifying scene I've ever seen. But I could see people calling their cell phone and calling 911.
Now, when you say walking by the girl, I mean, so there was, because as I know it, there was blood.
There was so much. It was like her whole hand was covered in blood.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Now these young girls, and now I will interject with my thing. Okay. So these three young girls, once again, two of them were 17. One was 13 at the time, who was one of the young ladies' younger cousin. All of these, gorgeous, beautiful girls, what have you, and they had their hair styled in the braids.
I don't remember that much. I don't remember that much.
I do. So what had happened when they showed me the thing, that in their head it was split, so there was a cut. So once again, two of those young ladies at some point rendered unconscious. Head split, the whole thing. But you, at least at that time, you saw the blood. You saw the whole.
I saw the blood. I saw people calling 911. I was young and drunk, and I had no idea what to do. And I ran up to it the opposite way, and I just said, "I'm sorry. I don't know what to do." And me and my friend just kind of hit it because we didn't know what to do, and I was scared out of my mind. And other people were calling 911, and it was just. I didn't know what else to do.
And now let's get to the part that makes you somebody that can even come into my house. Right? So the other part where after I found out, because obviously I didn't know it first, but the part where you told me about what you did and how you arrived to that is now what makes me have a respect for you. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that after that, now when the fuzz gets called and all this and all that, now talk about that whole experience in terms of being, going and you actually ended up testifying against.
Oh, absolutely. I testified every single word that I said. Everything I said was true, what I'd seen. I had some beers that night. I wasn't black. I know the difference between, you know what I mean? But I was tipsy, just teenager, but I remember what happened, and I know what I saw, and I testified on the grand jury, and everything I said was the truth, so I don't, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Just situation like that can happen in an instant. It's like I said, just better to know who you're surrounded with, and just don't hang out with all those scumbags, and just know people, you know what I mean? Right. Find the good in people, but if you can't find, I don't know what it's just, it was an eye-opening experience. It kind of changed the course of my life, actually, because I never hung out with that crowd ever again after that. It was done. I still listen to punk music, but never return the scene, so I guess we'll get back to more of that.
Okay, we're back again. Blackstonian TV. Those who are in our listening audience via audio, Blackstonian Radio. Once again, we're sitting here with Mark Vincent discussing the incident with Josiah A. Spaulding III, skinhead, son of Wang Center Director Josiah A. Spaulding Jr., who was involved in this incident back in 2002. So,
where we left off, I had said that I had seen the girl with her hand covered in blood, and I saw people on the cell phones calling ambulances, and me and my friend had fled. We didn't know what to do. We were inebriated. We were just young. We had no idea. We were scared. We took the train to the nearest stop near his place. We had gotten off, and the whole entire time I was thinking about the actual situation, about how messed up what I just saw was, how it happened in a blink of an eye. I didn't realize I was with a person with a 3-foot long green mohawk. So when we were walking down the street,
It's a little hard to hide.
a little bit, a little tiny bit hard to hide. I didn't even think about that at the time. My mind was only thinking about just like couldn't get over the fact. And that's when about like 2 paddy wagons and a few squad cars just pulled up, guns pointed to us, screaming at us, just get down on the ground. They handcuffed us. And the thing that made it worse was that they found my friend's baton that he had. And it was actually just his own baton. That wasn't the same baton that scumbag Josiah Spaulding used. It was his own baton that he had kept on his body for self-defense because he had gotten assaulted a couple weeks before this incident and left like by 4 different people. So he was just carrying in self-defense. At the time, cops didn't have that much details.
And so no different than if a stabbing occurs.
Yes, exactly.
And these people happen to be with a stabbing,
Yep.
and then they catch 2 people who were around the stabbing, but maybe not
Yes.
did the stabbing, but
So,
you also happen to have
exactly.
one.
So at first, with no information they had, they thought that he had struck the 2 girls, that he was responsible for it, and that I was his accomplice, and I was absolutely scared out of my mind. I've obviously never experienced like that. I haven't even known the guns ever since, like, just cops pointing a gun to your face when you're 16 for something that you were just in a blink of an eye witness is just crazy enough. I didn't know how to react. They threw me in a squad car and they brought me down to the hospital. They had the 2 victims there and I had no idea what to think the whole time. They told me just stand in a doorway. And the first victim they wheeled out in a wheelchair. She had a whole head bandaged. I was so scared. It was unreal. The fear that I felt. And she just looked at me, and then they wheeled her away, and I couldn't hear anything. Like, I'm thinking like if this girl got hit, you know what I mean? Like she made. Because at the time I didn't have my head like shaved, but I just had that whiffle. I've had 3 haircuts my whole life. I just wore like a black sweatshirt, jeans. I'm like, I don't know what you saw, but we could have all been wearing jeans, you know what I mean?
Right.
But she came in, and then her friend came in, and she looked at me, and then about a half hour later, after being handcuffed just in the hallway, a cop came up to me, and he said, the girls identified you as being there and not being the assailant or having anything to do with it. You're free to go. He said, do you want to wait for your friend? And I just said, no way. I ran to the T station, took the T home, just like took the bus, I remember, to Weymouth, ran from the bus station to my house, just went in my bed, and I just didn't sleep the entire night.
And for the record, and that's what the young ladies told me too. They told me that, this particular person, he was the aggressor, and it was like, well, there was some other white boys there with him, but they didn't do anything, and they kind of looked like they were just like, what the hell's going on type of thing. So,
Exactly, yes.
that's what they told me as well. So, with that, really, if maybe you want to wrap up with anything or not, and if not, then I would just, do a highlight of the data.
Like I said, I went in front of the jury, I testified. In front of a grand jury, I said everything I just said to them. I never heard him say nigger. I never heard him say it. Although I do think it was an act of a hate crime. I never heard him say it, but I heard his girlfriend say it. But when I think about it, I think about all the time, if it was a white girl, when he was trying to stop the fight, if he would just have hit her. And I think the answer is absolutely no. I think it was indeed. Even though he did not say the words, I do think that it was a hate crime, and I do think that he was most likely under the influence of drugs, cocaine at the time. There had been rumors. But yeah, just a story of a confused dude, a Jewish rich boy, just spoiled as hell, just absolutely disgusting. His actions not like ruined my life. Like, I feel like as messed up as the situation is, that I'm a better person, that I like to surround myself with better people, and just completely get rid of all those scumbags. So it's just, I don't know, he's just a despicable human being, and he ended up only serving a little bit of jail time. He should have been in jail for years and years.
The judge made him remove whatever little tattoos or whatever. Or slap on the wrist shit.
Slap on the wrist for a little ignorant white boy who just ruined, not my childhood, but you know what I mean? That's completely changed everything, so.
And so, folks, basically, that's a lot of, we could really go in on this for 8 hours straight. That's a lot of it. Obviously, at the time, we were all over it. These papers that you see in front of you is all sorts of facts and figures and dates and times and the court docket numbers and, the whole thing. What I can tell you is that what we will do via the Blackstonian is that we will make available the packet of information that we did in the beginning. You will see the flyer in the face of this individual, Josiah Spaulding, Josiah A. Spaulding III. And also, too, it's interesting when you brought up, under the influence of, also this is a dude who was already a little bit unstable in the head, who was taking Celexa, and Klonopin, and other types of drugs that were dealing with mental issues that may have been there, combined with the fact of the ultimate super intense white privilege that I'm sure he felt by being, this young white man and taking on this new persona of Lars, and he was recreating himself into some sort of like a tough guy or something. I don't know what he was trying to achieve, but the records and the information that I've gathered basically speaks to, like you said, he was just happened to be one nutty, decrepit individual, and that this is a case scenario too for a person like me, who at the time, had I met this man 10 years ago, I would have been ready to kick his little 16, 17-year-old behind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without even listening to the explanation. You were there, you're guilty. Mm-hmm. But now these are also case studies of how everybody who might have been there at the time might not have been on the same level and guilty and whatnot. And these are the types of examples that we have to examine, because in this, there was a clear villain. There was a person who was clearly doing that. And if anybody that we come out with is Josiah A. Spaulding III and that girlfriend, whatever her
absolutely
harpy name. What was her name?
I can't even remember. Can't even remember her name.
Okay.
Just despicable human beings.
So those are the culprits, and that's what precipitated this thing. So really, that brings a conclusion. Once again, you'll see all the paperwork, online and everything. I will, remove your identifying information out of here.
Out of your room in the file?
Yeah, the big file.
Thanks.
When we met, this is what I showed him. Like, oh, you're that guy.
Oh, you have my name in a file. So
right. So we won't put his social security number and all that out. But all this other information will be available via the Blackstonian. And as I've told you, what I hope to do is that we will also meet with the young lady. Mm-hmm.
I was talking about before about how I had such a hard time with that incident that I seen, and I don't really like to go to that place and think about that much, and that's why I had forgot to say that every time that I think about that incident, every single time I think about what not only the two victims actually went through, but the other girl that had to witness her friends get beaten like that in such a horrendous way. I don't know how that they dealt with it, but I feel bad all the time. I would always wish that there was something that I could do. I guess maybe talking about it and saying that I hope that somehow they could not forgive that scumbag Josiah, but forgive the people that were with him, that were not involved, but as like people, like the cops called me an accomplice, I was just there witnessing. I guess somehow I hope that they would forgive me for just hanging out with such a scumbag and being naive, and that's about it.